I'm sorry, I have no idea what sound a peacock makes. So let's talk about Brave New World, which is a new original series on Peacock, which is a new streaming series, and apparently they're not going to have a ton of content that's new. So right at the launch, this is the show that so much depends upon. And I have thoughts about it, but before I get into that, if you're interested in seeing more videos on this channel, I'm doing upcoming reviews of Cursed and The Alienist, among other shows. Please consider subscribing, and if you give me a like, I'd really appreciate it. So let's talk about Brave New World without spoilers. So I don't want to dive into the plot too much. I feel like some reviewers just belabor plot points that anyone who actually wanted to know could just look up the summary and find out for themselves. But if you're completely in the dark, this is a series that's adapted from Aldous Huxley's book, Brave New World, and it was kind of often compared to 1984, but the key difference between 1984 and Brave New World is that while 1984 was kind of picturing this authoritarian future where people were constantly being watched and never having any privacy, Brave New World pictures this future where it's a utopian society where people are they stop caring about anything and simply go about their days being held captive by the pleasures that this world has to offer. They have this drug called Soma, which kind of just takes away all of their feelings that are negative or any really strong emotions. Being in a relationship with someone that is monogamous is prohibited. You're supposed to participate in all these orgies as a society, and basically they've tried to eliminate anything that can cause people to have conflict, and one of those aspects is individuality. And it's an interesting world, and I think that in as much as people will find this series entertaining, I think it's because of the concepts that were already present in Huxley's book. And I think that there's a remarkable pedigree here with Grant Morrison actually being one of the writers behind the scenes that is bringing this adaptation to life. And it's immaculately produced, amazing visuals throughout, feels like a film for the most part over the course of its 9 episodes. And the cast is very, very good. The supporting cast is good, not just the leads in Harry Lloyd and Alden Ehrenreich and Sybil from Downton Abbey, but the supporting actors are quite good as well, with some very, very nuanced work from several performers, with the exception of Demi Moore, who seems to be doing her best impersonation of Jessica Lange in Ryan Murphy's show. But the problem I felt with this show, well, there was a couple problems. This is definitely a case of a show taking way too long to get to the point. It went on for 9 episodes, and I really feel like it could have been much better at 4 or 5 episodes, which is really, really short, but I just feel that this series just went on too long. And second, I feel that there was this tension between what Huxley was trying to say and what the writers of the show were trying to say that never got completely resolved, because I think that the writers of the show were trying to adapt his novel, but they kind of create this dialectic with Huxley because they obviously don't agree with many of the things that he was arguing. Huxley was actually quite scandalized by the expanding sexual morality of his day, and his book was kind of a response to that and kind of a, idea of what's going to happen if this trend continues. And his assumption is that society will devolve into, nonstop orgies. And he sees this very much as a bad thing, whereas the writers of the show are kind of struggling with this tension because in their minds, obviously, many of the arguments that the characters in this utopian society make against monogamy might seem like they're logical to these writers. I'm not weighing in on that myself, but it is interesting. And the writers create this dialectic where they question, is Huxley right, or would this character that Alden Ehrenreich is playing, who shows up in this brave new world, as it were, and coming from a culture that the people in this utopian society view as savages, and he creates disorder and chaos and ultimately a lot of violence. And the showrunners seem to actively question, is Huxley right, or is the society the best that we can hope for? Is individuality helpful or harmful? And this never really resolves itself. It's not something that the show really has a clear answer for. I feel that they added a lot of sci-fi elements into this work without considering how it would impact Huxley's themes. And they, at times, as I said, seem to actively disagree with what Huxley was trying to say in this book. So it creates a very, very strange dialectic, as I said. I think that of the cast, Harry Lloyd is easily the best performer. He's kind of perfected these man-child, petulant characters that are very, very anxious about protecting their turf. And there were scenes here, and it was very obvious to me that he knew exactly who Bernard, this character he was playing, was. And I really thought that he had amazing chemistry with the character that Alden Ehrenreich was playing, and I really enjoyed their scenes together. But for the most part, I felt that Alden Ehrenreich was kind of a dud of a lead. At least in Solo, he kind of had this swaggering charisma that he gained from doing a Harrison Ford impersonation. But here, I just feel that his character, which very obviously is not meant to be a straight-up hero. I feel like this has a similar mentality about heroes that Brian Herbert does in Dune and Dune Messiah, where beware of following them, beware where that will lead you. And that's a very interesting aspect to explore, but considering we're spending so much time with Alden Ehrenreich's character, we should actively care about him, and because he's so often undercut by the script, I feel like it's a struggle to do that. Jessica Brown Findlay, she's fine. I don't think she's an amazing actress, to be honest. I don't think she's anywhere near the level of the two male leads. And I think that her character is really just here to have a female lead. They don't really do much with her for the most part. And whoever was designing her costumes did a horrible job, because she's like the only member of the cast that to me looked remarkably unattractive physically a lot of the time. And I know that she's a very attractive actress, so I thought it very, very strange that they couldn't find costumes that made her look good. Overall, I found this a bit of a slog, and I feel like there were way too many orgy scenes, but I think that that was the only thing that the producers could come up with to make this show entertaining, because when they're exploring this world, there's only so much you can do before you've run out of world exploration, and then you kind of have to have a plot. But the show is strangely lacking in external tension for the most part. These characters are kind of breaking the rules of society, but the show frequently implies that there are no consequences within the society for breaking those rules, apparently because the society doesn't have any of the conflicts that we have in our present age. There's no murder or accidents of any sort. It takes a bizarre length of time before the inciting incident of the show, or what I would say was the inciting incident of the show, happens. I wouldn't say that the actual inciting incident occurs until the end of episode 3. And immediately the show picks up steam at that point, but it's a case where this show is always interesting just from the world that they're exploring and from the ideas that Aldous Huxley had in his book. But it's not as deep as the book, but not by a long stretch. It's confused, I think, in what it's trying to say, and it just lacks a well-structured story that I think viewers can engage with and follow throughout. I think it had a lot of potential, but I would overall say that unless you're extremely interested, I would give this one a pass, because I don't think that it's worth the amount of investment of time that's required to make it all the way through. But if you've seen Brave New World, let me know what you thought in the comments. If you're interested in seeing my upcoming reviews of other shows, please consider subscribing to the channel. And as always, you can watch more videos right now.